BMW have just revealed their new Electric 5 Series EV that they say is truly groundbreaking, truly luxurious, and, well, all around truly amazing. Now, I actually think it's not bad. I quite like the interior. I like the fact that BMW have, just revealed an EV. That's a great thing. But there are two pretty major issues with this car. Two reasons that I personally would not choose it, and I would choose something from another automaker. Now, I'm not saying you should necessarily buy a Tesla here. I'm not saying that at all, in fact. I'm just saying that I think that even though this is a brand new EV, there are two reasons why it is not on my list. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. A lot of people say that the BMW's latest generation styling is very controversial. They say it's ugly. They say they look terrible. BMW themselves, they say this, right? They just said within the last 24 hours, we don't know why you should design an EV to look different to an internal combustion engine car. They should just look the same as an internal combustion engine car. Personally, I think that's mad. One of the big advantages of making an EV is so that you can overcome the disadvantages of the shape of an internal combustion engine vehicle, having to have a big bonnet at the front, being forced to have a big bonnet at the front because you have a big engine in there. Now, once you have an EV, you can actually make the car a more practical shape. That's what I think anyhow. And I talk about that sort of thing on this channel all the time. One of the EVs that I love for this particular reason is the BYD Dolphin. It has a very small bonnet, very big interior. It's much shorter than a Toyota Corolla, but the interior is much bigger. You can see my point here. But to be able to do this, right, to get more practicality out of your car, you need to design it as a ground up EV. Unfortunately, the new BMW 5 Series i5 is not a ground-up EV. It is built on the same platform as an internal combustion engine vehicle. So there's definitely some compromises going on there. But that said, the price is still actually not too bad in the United States, at least, anyhow. However, whilst I say that, on the other hand, it is quite a premium over the gasoline internal combustion engine version. Now, the 5 Series starts at $57,000 in the US. Unfortunately, the 5 Series Electric starts at $84,000. I suggest that maybe BMW aren't wanting to sell too many of these if they price it that much higher than the gasoline-powered version. BMW sold 4 times as many X5 SUVs as 5 Series sedans in the US last year. But make no mistake, mid-size icon is still a big deal. Everyone is talking about this car right now. And its importance to the company far outweighs its volume. It's more of an image creator. The 8th generation 2024 5 Series car released today is probably the most significant vehicle in the history of the BMW 5 Series because it's the first to be offered with an electric powertrain. The electric i5 and combustion-powered 5 Series are being launched together because drivetrains and grills aside, they're the same car. That is, well, it's a compromise, meaning this car's efficiency could be improved if it was a ground-up EV. Therefore, it would probably be a bit heavier than what it might otherwise have been if BMW had designed it simply as an EV. Both cars ride on BMW's CLAR platform rather than the next generation new class EV architecture that won't be ready until 2025. But that doesn't mean they're short on new technology, which is just as well because the starting price has actually increased. The new 530i now costs $57,900. That's an increase of $2,000. And the 540 xDrive is $300 less expensive though than the old one. Though internal combustion engines are probably more the focus of this 5 Series than the EV version, BMW is definitely leading from the EV angle, marketing it that way. And it's supplied most media agencies primarily with only images of the i5, not of the internal combustion 5 Series. At launch, the choice comes down to this. For the single motor version, rear-wheel drive, eDrive 40, it starts at $66,800. The dual motor version that I mentioned before starts at $84,000 US, and that's called the xDrive M60. The cheaper version, the $67,000 US version, gives you 335 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. That's 400 Newton meters. It also gives you an 0 to 60 mile per hour time, that's 0 to 97 kilometers an hour, of 5.7 seconds. Pay the extra $17,300 for the M60, you get an extra 257 horsepower in the front of the car, making it a bit heavier but significantly more powerful, giving it a total power of 590 horsepower and 586 pound-feet of torque, which is around 800 newton meters of torque. That means the car in dual motor variant can do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.7 seconds. However, to get the full power out of the car, you have to do something special. You need to hold a steering wheel shift paddle marked boost for at least 0.8 seconds. Both versions of the car feature a heat pump, which is a good thing. And they use the same battery pack. It's an 84.3 kilowatt hour pack, which has 11 kilowatt AC charging and 205 kilowatt DC charging. I think for a luxury car, the charging speed is one area that they could improve. I mean, an Ioniq 5, 350 kilowatt charging speed, right? A Hyundai, Kia EV6, same thing, 350 kilowatt. It's not so luxurious, in my opinion, if your charging speed is significantly less than Kia and Hyundai. But that's just my take. Let me know what you think on that. However, BMW says that charging from 10 to 80% on the ideal chargers will take around 30 minutes. Where the two models are, well, significantly different is range. The cheaper version, which weighs 4,916 pounds or 2,230 kilos, meaning it's quite heavy considering its overall size, will give you 295 miles of range, which is 475 kilometers. Obviously, a car such as, say, a Tesla Model 3 long range has quite a bit more range than that for less money. The heavier all-wheel drive version weighs 5,247 pounds or 2,380 kilos. And it gives you 412 kilometers of range or 256 miles. Now, just to compare this to the Tesla Model 3, and I'm not saying you should buy the Tesla Model 3 instead. I don't think most buyers would actually cross-shop the two. Or maybe they would. I don't know. What do you think on that one? Range for the Tesla Model 3 long range is 325 miles. And the car costs $47,000 US, but it does actually qualify for US incentives for around $3,750, meaning the driveway price probably ends up being closer to $43,000 or just under that. It also means that you're going to get about 70 miles more range from a car costing $40,000 less. Now, this isn't me saying the i5 is not a good car and you shouldn't consider it, but I do think the range is being hurt here. It's being damaged by the fact this is not a pure EV and it's very, very heavy. In fact, it weighs 600 pounds more than a Tesla Model 3. Now, I accept that it's bigger than a Model 3 and it should weigh more, but 600 pounds, that's massive. And for me, that's a bit of a red flag. I mean, 2,400 kilos, that's heavier than the BMW X5 SUV that I used to own. Fortunately for drivers of the M60, which has 412 kilometers of range, you have a function on there called the emergency max range function. It limits top speed to 56 miles an hour, which is 90 kilometers an hour, and blacklists the climate control and seat heating. So don't use that if you're in a very, very cold place. Otherwise, you could freeze. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Tesla Model 3 is a smaller car. Why would you even bother comparing it to that? Well, actually, the size difference is not as big as you think. In fact, I'm not convinced there is a size difference. If you look at the interior dimensions of both cars, they're very, very similar. That doesn't make sense because the 5 Series EV is bigger on the outside. Well, yeah, here's my other issue that I have with this car. The bonnet is very long. It's big enough to put a V12 in the front. Is this a V12? Does it need a V12 engine? I mean, even the gasoline-powered version doesn't come with a V12. I don't know why the bonnet's so long. It just baffles me. I think this is an area BMW could really improve. Some of the Chinese car companies are starting to do this, making shorter bonnets because you don't need this big, long bonnet. It just takes up space and does nothing and actually means more weight that does nothing. So people in the comments that I'm reading are saying, oh, the 5 Series is much bigger than a Model 3. Now, like I said, I'm not saying you should buy the Model 3 instead, but I'm just comparing them to give you some context here. But the truth is, interior space is actually very, very similar because of the packaging of both cars. Now, if you don't want a 5 Series EV, I don't blame you on that. BMW, well, they're going to offer a plug-in hybrid as well. That'll join the range in 2024. They'll also offer 2 internal combustion engine variants with mild hybrids. Now, it's worth pointing out that the 5 Series has actually become bigger in every way compared to the previous 5 Series. It's grown in length by 3.4 inches. That's around 86.4 millimeters longer to a total of 199.2 inches, or just over 5 meters, 5,060 millimeters long. It's quite a long car. Of that, 117.9 inches is the wheelbase, which is 2,995 millimeters. That's an increase in wheelbase size of 0.8 inches or 20 millimeters. So you can kind of see my point here, right? The wheelbase has only increased by 0.8 inches, but the length of the car has increased by 3.4 inches. As you can see, a lot of that length increase is actually in the bonnet. They made an EV and they gave it a longer bonnet than the internal combustion engine previous model. I don't think that makes sense. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, this is what BMW says about the 5 Series. It says it's better than a 3 Series and a 7 Series because it's more present and elegant than the 3 Series, and it's more dynamic and sporty than the 7 Series. One of the probably the biggest improvement to the 5 Series is the fact, aside from it being electric, that it has a nicer interior. It's got a 12.3-inch cluster sitting right in front of the driver, and it sort of joins nicely with the middle screen, which is a 14.9-inch screen. It's also got an 8.5 iDrive operating system and apparently much better performance from its operating system than the previous version. However, the iDrive wheel is still there on the console. They haven't removed that, and it's nestled between the trendy vegan leather seats, which join the option list for a full panoramic roof for the first time. Now, there's actually quite a bit of new technology in the new 5 Series. This includes access to an Air console platform that allows passengers to download and play games, though only when the car is stationary. You also get the touch-sensitive interaction bar from the 7 Series that stretches across the dash and allows you to control the climate system fairly easily. BMW also say that it has some semi-autonomous capabilities. The 5 Series gets an optional highway assistant that allows hands-off but not eyes-off driving at speeds of up to 85 miles an hour. That's 137 kilometers an hour. And it will change lanes for you when the driver looks in one of the door mirrors to confirm a maneuver suggested by the car. Sounds complicated to me, but anyhow. The 5 Series also comes standard with a fully automated parking system, which could be really good. BMW has actually also changed some of the dynamics of the car. The basic chassis setup has been changed. It has double wishbones up front and a multi-link rear axle at the back. But now every model also gets variable ratio sport steering. Now, one of the reasons for the variable ratio sport steering could be the fact that this car is 25% heavier than the previous version. As I said, it is quite a heavy vehicle. The i5 M60, so the more expensive option of these two EVs, also comes standard with rear axle steering, active roll stabilization that uses electric motors to control an anti-roll bar as well. So what do you think of this new 5 Series EV? Now, I really do like the fact that BMW are saying, hey, if you want an electric 5 Series, we've made one. I'm just a little bit disappointed that I think they could have done a better job. Do you agree? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.